We are streaming on YouTube right now, or anywhere you are.
Okay, I'm going to call this work session of the Seward City Council to order. This is Monday, October 14th, and it is 5:30. And the purpose of this is to kick off the discussion of our 2025-2026 budget. And what I'm going to do is turn it over to the city manager, and she'll sort of run things, and we'll work in audience comments either along the way, or I'll save time at the end. We'll figure how it flows, okay?
Great.
So, now to the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I first want to start by thanking everybody for being here tonight. This is a critical phase in the FY 25-26 budget planning process, and it's time for public engagement and council discussion. The next 5 work sessions were scheduled for the purpose of planning, studying, and discussing the FY 25-26 recommended budget in front of you. By code, we can't take any action on any matters, but the city administration can take recommendations and input from these discussions. The proposed recommended budget for the city manager's office is just that, a recommendation. We are hoping that at each of the following work sessions, we have engaged discussions with the council and the community to hear how this recommended budget aligns with their goals for the city of Seward, or what changes and additions they would like to see in their community. There are several policy changes outlined in this budget that will also need ordinances or resolution before the final adoption. So, if these work sessions are successful, this budget will not match the one presented to council in November. It will be shaped by the input, conversations, and even disagreements that we have over the next few weeks. Following the work sessions, we'll incorporate council and public input ahead of the November 12th council meeting. There will be 3 public hearings at the November 12th, 25th, and December 9th meetings. We anticipate the FY 25-26 budget will be adopted at the meeting in December. We also have an additional meeting on November 18th, an additional special meeting on the books should it be necessary. Tonight and tomorrow night, we're focusing on the general fund. We've sent out the general fund recommended budget as a packet for this work session, and that highlights all of the departments that fall under the general fund, such as administration, city council, city clerk, some parks and rec, some public works, IT, fire, police, etc. In this recommended budget, we have anticipated a bed tax increase of an additional 4% for a total bed tax of 8%. We have reallocated a portion of the sales tax from the hospital fund to the general fund. We have added 1 new firefighter position, and we incorporated the findings of our current wage study that will increase personnel costs by 8% in an effort to hire and retain staff, especially police officers. These are some of the big revenue and expense policy decisions to keep in mind as we move through these discussions. We also operated under several goals and assumptions, including a maintenance of current service levels across the board. We're maintaining our general fund reserves within the policy bands set by code. We're protecting the long-term financial health of our city, strengthening enterprise funds, budgeting for CPI, and decreasing operating expenses by 5% where we're able to. We have also presented to you a balanced budget, and will maintain that balance of our revenue and expenses to the end of this process. So, tonight I'd like to start with Parks and Rec and Public Works, as both of these directors are here. Then we can move on to IT, Finance, Clerk, and City Manager, recognizing that we have to stop at 7 p.m. for our regular council meeting, and hopefully a bit earlier for citizen and council discussions along the way. So, I'm eyeing Doug. I think I'm going to invite him to come up first, and we'll go through his budget for just the general fund side. Taking into account that water and sewer are his enterprise funds. So this is for streets, buildings, city shop, etc. And you can find that on page 32. And just to note on the packet that you have, for major changes, we put in a narrative column. So we highlighted a major change with an X in the narrative column, and then that corresponds to an explanation from the department head on the back 3 pages. So pages 46, 47, and 48, and 49. Lots of narrative. Take it away, Doug.
So page 32 starts with the street department. There's not a lot of changes on there. Just the cost of living. There's a few things that we looked at with the contract services, and something we did add a little bit in the contract services, or actually quite a bit for the striping and line painting in town that we end up jobbing out. The problem we had was it took so much of the Public Works street department time that we just couldn't get to any alleys, ditching, any of the other things we need to get to. And so we went ahead and bid it out, job, and got that one set up. But it's about you know, the cost of the paint and stuff going out, it's up there. So we have to continue to make sure we put out a new RFP next year to make sure who may be new may be getting into the business to try to do that, but that's been such a time consuming for, you know, all 4, 5, 6 guys at once to be doing all the line painting. So that's the biggest change that we have in the public works. We're up to staff, so everything should remain fairly steady on that. I think the contingency down, there's one that's in, just for 2025, but I believe that's in for sidewalks, for additive on some sidewalks, and that'd come into the, we'll look at that's more for our minor repairs that we do ourselves, and we also have the sidewalk fund coming up in our main funds that will look at doing some major sidewalk projects. So any questions on streets that I could answer? Okay.
Any questions? No?
If
And
none, I
that's-
can move to the next page, to the city shop. There's a question here, and I might have to ask for on finance on the postage and freight. For some reason on 27 it didn't, or 26 it didn't get added in. I'm not sure on that one, so it's on streets, page 33.
7002.
Yeah.
Good catch.
And then down on operating supplies, it looks like 7215. It looks like we're missing, or no, maintenance repair, I'm sorry. 7216, it looks like for 2025, we're missing the number on that one. It just got, I think the delete button got hit by accident when we were doing that, but I just wanted to make sure we keep those. So there'll be a little changes, just like the city manager had said, as we go through these, we're gonna probably catch a few things, ups and downs, and get them corrected as we go. But same thing on city shop, we don't have much. There was a little bit of movement between operating supplies and maintenance and repairs, just back and forth, and a lot of that is our coding issues and how to code some things to the certain. We'll have some that's a little over, some that's a little under when we adjust it. Working through to get those coded correctly, because there's so many different things that come in and they could qualify for either, and they get coded under a different thing. But really that's, it's really not a big changes to that budget. Keeping with, you know, we're all trying to make cuts where we can, or at least hold steady, so that one's pretty close right there.
Question, we have a question here.
Sure.
I'm sure it's just something simple, but on the 7003, the bank and credit card fees, 6, you know, what's going on there?
We're on the city shop one, right, on page 33?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah, the bank and credit card fees. I'm not sure why we had
That
that
was-
in those past years, the $6 and $1, but
some
typically.
booking.
That's the way it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
some booking error, but at the end, you have to remember we consolidate all of these lines in one for the general fund. So probably a key or someplace.
Yeah, so previously, all of the buildings had been put under one general fund account, which at the time seemed like the right decision, but now we realize that since we rent out some of the building in this area, as well as over at the senior center, we needed to keep them in separate budgetary departments so that we can allocate those costs appropriately. So for 22 and 23, while we were able to pull out those numbers, they may not be 100% representative of what those are, because we extrapolated from one major department and then took it out and said, this is city shop, this is this community center, and this is the municipal building, so that we can allocate those charges to the cohabitators of the buildings appropriately.
Perfect, thank you.
Randy, you were asking about, on page 33, right, the postage and freight on that one, though?
The bank and credit card.
No, the bank and credit card
Yeah.
fees. Yeah.
And we just don't have it in there,
No,
that's some, it
no,
was just
it's
like they said, is it just some corrections, but they got through there. But typically on shop, we wouldn't have any bank.
That's what I was, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Barnhart.
Yeah, Doug, can you, I know you guys bought a new grader this year, right?
Correct.
And I just was looking at the motor pool rent. I'm always a little confused how this works. Why does that change from around 8,000 down to 4 up to 8 and then 5,500?
And that's something we're working through finance, and part of this whole budgetary discussion as we get into the motor pool next week, we'll change some of these numbers, because yes, I believe we need to be a little higher on some of these motor pool rents, especially when we get that new piece. But as that new piece comes in, I don't think it reflected on the original rent, so now it's gotta be put up on this one. So we'll work into that one for sure.
Is that just like a conversation with, say, Kat and other directors to try to figure out, do you guys just kind of have an informal discussion about how that works, or is there some science behind how you?
On motor pool, it's generally determined by finance on typically a 10 or 20-year lifetime cycle.
Yes.
And so then that'll be brought in. And so that's something we're working on to try to get that right. The idea is always that your motor pool rent from all the departments at some point should fund a lot of the motor pool. But just remember our own cars and the prices are going up, we're still paying this price, right? So anyway, there's some escalation, but as the motor pool goes, there's funding mechanisms that have come over the years when there's excess, whether it's sales tax or something like that.
I think we had that conversation a couple months ago, and I just wanted to.
Yeah, and I think we'll have some more
Yep.
as we get to the fun stuff, so.
Okay.
Councilmember Calhoun?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. One quick question. I may have missed this if I did. It's actually back in streets?
Yep.
And the increase in the overtime estimate, is that something? Because we're going from 35,000 in 2024 to 65,000 in 2025. Are we anticipating something that would increase our overtime that much?
That, I believe, is an anticipation of an increase in pay based off of the 8% wage scale. But I'm gonna have to clarify that with
And
Julie.
also the snow and ice department is no longer a department.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
allocated the cost of salaries into this department now.
Yeah, so we used to have a snow and ice department as well, where those overtime salaries would be, so now they're in this department for streets. So it's streets as a whole, not streets in the summer and streets in the winter. So that is where that comes from, sorry. My error, you're right, Suli. But a good thing to note.
Go ahead. One more.
Thank you. Just one question on 7015 utilities. I know the cost of everything's going up, but we're anticipating a 40% increase in utility costs?
I don't think so.
Yeah, Doug, did you have in streets, correct?
In a
That's
street?
in streets.
Yeah, in streets there's a-
7015, sorry.
Yeah, that should be by the CPI increase, so we will go in and
Yeah.
adjust that.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at it
Unless, Doug,
right,
you had a reasoning.
7015, and it's 129 now and just
No,
going
no, I
to
was looking at
133.
streets. I was looking at, I'm sorry, shop.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm like,
I was looking
Sorry.
at shop too. Yeah, it goes from 38 to 68.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
60, oh, okay.
Perfecto.
That's new electric
I
vehicle.
know.
No,
I'm apologize for that. I'm apologize for that. This entire process has been manually inputted. I mean, I have millions of spreadsheets going around, and I apologize for the error on it.
So we're gonna fix that?
Yep, we'll adjust that.
Okay.
No, this is great.
Yep.
Doug, you didn't put the formula in, right? I'm messing with you.
Anything else on city shop? Okay, Doug, I think we
Great.
need to move on.
All right, then we go to buildings, public works buildings. And so municipal buildings, right now, we have some costs that we split out last year trying to put them all together, and like they had just mentioned that just to keep costs allocated and tracked a lot better, they want to go back to having separate for city hall Annex, and Community Center. Community Center is the senior center up there, and that's got some other split things we have on it, but those costs now are being broke back out, so there's a little bit of a snafu. But as far as the general costs on it, I believe that one almost is straight up, just the increase, the cost of living.
I have a real quick question
Yeah.
on, it appears before too, on the air ambulance benefit in MetLife, where do those tiny little charges come from?
Oh, those are for the individual employees. We have air, ambulance, and MetLife benefits for all employees. So it's a small charge, but it's broken out in there.
So it's split all over the
Yeah, for
place then?
employees, for
Okay.
benefits for employees.
Okay, just checking. Okay.
So I don't know if there's any questions on that one. That one's pretty simple. I didn't see anything that was standing out at all in that one.
So I have a question. What is the community center?
That's the senior center and the Boys and Girls Club
So
over
it's
by
that whole
building.
Building, the community center.
Yeah.
So something to note for everybody, to go back to the way it was, all the salaries are only listed in City Hall for buildings, okay? So any of the custodian salaries, the 2 custodians we have, is listed under City Hall. And then under Community Center and Annex, it's only other costs other than personnel.
Okay.
So Community Center, again, we're splitting it back out, and you can go back to the 22 numbers is where we're kind of extrapolating some of that, but very small, simple budget there.
Oh, yeah, Councilmember Rose.
I apologize, Doug. Under the municipal buildings, number, page 34, number 6201, I see that under 6,000, the salaries increase from 95,000 to 120,000. I'm curious why it is the retirement benefits only went up $1,040.
That is based off of, sometimes we have to plan for people's retirements in our budgets,
Yeah.
and recognizing that some people with a longer tenure will have retirement at that time. So we don't anticipate much of an increase from that in the coming years with some retirements that had previously happened.
Okay. I guess I'll have to come in and figure out a little bit more about what that is.
So like
how that works.
when somebody who's been with the city for 30+ years retires, it costs more than somebody who's been with the city for 5 years. So we've recently had a few 30-year retirements, so we were able, and thankfully with talking through them and kind of anticipating when they were going to retire, we're able to increase our budget that year to recognize that that's going to happen. So we don't need to increase that again because that retirement has happened.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, Doug?
Great.
That I'd rather not get to page 36 for Parks and Rec. than next time.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, we have page 36, Parks and Rec.
Good evening. I'm going to start with admin. And there's just a few changes. Let's see here. Added a little more uniform allowance, which I adjusted from the TYC budget, maintenance and repair, to the uniform. So it's just an adjustment, not an increase. And then I adjusted 3,000 from TYC maintenance and repair to travel and expenses.
Yeah, so maybe to start too, we can talk a little bit about the TYC plan for the next 2 years. We are proposing and working with the youth, TYC.
With the Boys and Girls
The Boys and
Club,
Girls Club,
yeah.
TYC as it's known, to co-partner on programming there so that during the, no, I'm going to let you speak to it. So I don't get it wrong.
I wasn't quite prepared to speak
Yeah.
on it, but currently, I'm working on the MOA, just cleaning up for the Boys and Girls Club. They've had trouble operating the lower level of the teen and youth center for the teens. So I I am proposing in the budget to take some of that funding that we've been paying them for contracted services and apply it to using that lower level as a teen/community center, so.
So while the Boys and Girls Club has done a great job of providing services, they've struggled to fill some of the vital roles in there to make sure they have full-time staff. And so to alleviate that, we're working with them on a new MOU, which would lower our annual costs with the youth center, and instead we'll have Parks and Rec staff go into the bottom to make sure that we have consistent, available programming for teens and youth. And so we'll see a decrease on their contracted services, but we're going to spread that out across Parks and Rec so that Mel can provide her staff with the things necessary to provide those services as well.
Right, and that, including maintenance.
Yeah, including maintenance.
Because the lower level is in pretty rough shape, and so we have a lot of repairs and improvements to make. So we're going to be working on that in the course of a couple months.
Yep.
We're starting painting already, and we're going to redo the flooring and such, so, and the lighting. But, so, yeah, that's where some of the adjustments, TYC has a pretty healthy budget, and so does the cemetery, and so I have adjusted quite a bit from the cemetery because we don't always use all the operating materials for the cemetery, so it just gets absorbed into the general budget. So in campgrounds, I've adjusted 11,000 from the cemetery to, park maintenance, to park maintenance and repair. So, sorry.
Could you repeat what you just said?
Sorry, okay, so I've adjusted 11,000 from the cemetery operating materials.
What number is that?
Let's
Line
see.
number?
Line number, please.
7221 on page 39, is that what?
Yeah, page 39.
Yes, 7221, operating materials.
Okay.
To park maintenance, 7216, maintenance and repair.
Hold on.
And so one of the things that Mel did when approaching her budget is reallocating the funds from her interdepartments. So Parks and Rec as a whole hasn't seen much change budgetarily, but within each individual department, there's been shifting. And so from the cemetery, we've moved that over to maintenance. So thinking through it as recognizing that we haven't seen increased costs in the Parks and Rec departments across the board. We've just seen shifting from, say, maintenance at the cemetery to maintenance at a park, because
Right.
that's where the needs are going to be in these coming years, since we've had a lot of maintenance taken care of at the cemetery. So walking through, maybe let's pop in and look at some of the bigger numbers that might stand out to council and the community. Maybe let's start with like maintenance and repair on 7216
What
under
page?
Parks and Rec maintenance
Oh,
is a big one that we can highlight that kind of takes a lot of that maintenance and repair from the cemetery and
wow, yeah.
and other areas. Sorry, working through this. 7211. So that's 11,000 in additional funding to that maintenance and repair, but a lot of it is coming from the cemetery operating budget previously, since those funds are no longer needed.
Right.
Is that?
And so that 11K came, so park maintenance didn't have anything under operating materials, so that's where that 11K is going to instead of operating supplies. Oh, no.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
That's coming off a
Still
little
doesn't make
convoluted, sorry.
Councilmember Calhoun.
Well, I guess
Sorry,
I'm
I
having
made
a
a
hard time
lot of,
following, because you're telling me that in 7216 on page 38, that we're increasing,
Oh, 721.
maintenance and repair?
Yes, we are increasing maintenance and
Not
repairs.
on
not-
7216, not on page
Yeah.
38.
Okay, so what do we,
We're increasing maintenance and repair on page 37 under parks, under
Park maintenance.
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 Yes.
Sorry, I apologize for that.
Here.
okay, so
Oh, I see.
we're increasing by 7,000. And we're taking that from cemetery?
Correct.
But where in the
Except that I don't
decreasing.
see
Yeah.
a decrease in the cemetery.
So under contracted services, 7009.
Oh, we took it out of,
Yeah.
not out of maintenance.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
And so it's an interesting way to looking at Parks and Rec as a whole, as a department, and then individually for each of the programs that they have in there. So I think Mel's done a really good job of utilizing her budget across her the whole spectrum of the work that Parks and Rec does. But as we dig into the nitty gritty and explain where each of these comes from, it can be a little confusing.
Councilmember Fish.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the, what's it, page 38. 7221 operating materials was 17,000 in 2023, 10,000 2024, budget for 45,000, but now it's doubling literally in 2025 and 26. Why is that?
So on,
Is that park maintenance or?
that's campgrounds,
Oh, okay.
operating materials. So that
Under
is
operating materials, okay.
7221.
So that is, so we have continued to make improvements in the campgrounds, and we spent over $100,000 in just resurfacing alone. The shower house is in poor shape, we've been painting, we need to update all the plumbing, shower units. We also need to get a sump pump. Let's see here.
There's a lot of electrical repairs
There's a
that
lot
we
of,
need
yeah, all the
to
electrical
our
costs.
bathrooms.
Right.
So this is us planning for those repairs that we need for the infrastructure of our campgrounds in the next 2 years.
Also picnic table frames, fire rings.
And back on page 36, line item
maintenance.
6,000 salaries. You're budgeted for 4,093 in 2023, 541 in
36.
2024, but now you're jumping up to 713 and 742. Are you trying to hire more staff? Or why
This
is that
one's-
such a $170,000 jump from 2024 to 2025?
Sorry, I don't have the same page numbers. Are you an admin or?
I'm on 36.
Well,
Admin.
admin, okay,
Admin.
all right.
So 6,000 personnel costs.
So historically, we allocating expenditure for personnel in different departments. And back in 2023 and 24, they decided to just combine it in one department. That's why it looks high, but really doesn't, because other departments does not have allocation for personnel expenses.
So my follow-up question to that is, how many openings this year were not filled, and we're allocating more money for more jobs down the road that we couldn't even fill the ones we had?
We didn't have any openings in the Parks and Rec department this year.
We
Not
were
at all.
fully staffed.
No, we were fully staffed all summer.
Correct.
It was wonderful.
It was.
Councilmember Barnwell, sorry.
I don't need to keep all of this together, Melanie.
It was a lot of work.
I've always thought that well, especially now that I'm on council, I think that your position and there's so many moving parts to this position, to this, the Parks and Rec. And I don't know how we could clean that up or help, because it just seems, for instance, should parking be under Parks and Rec? I've always wondered that. The other one today, I didn't know that, campgrounds are not a enterprise fund. And would that help to have campgrounds?
It has been historically allocated into the general
Yeah,
fund.
that's how it's historically been, so.
Right,
It's
they-
the third revenue, the
But they make more
third
money.
higher revenue source for the general fund.
Yeah.
Is the campgrounds.
I don't know, some of
Yeah.
these changes might kind of help clean up and help the director kind of manage this money and all these different aspects of it, and trying to move money around here and there as needed to fill gaps. It just, I mean, just looking at it from our perspective, we're like, holy smokes, you know.
Yeah.
Councilmember Fish.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thinking about this, with the need for the ADA fishing, would that fall under Parks and Rec, Public Works, or come out of the general fund?
All three of those are within the general fund, so, yes to the general fund answer. Depending on the location, if a location were decided, that would probably impact that, because it could also be in the harbor, because it's fishing. So I don't have a strong answer for you at this time, because we're still working on a plan to find and fund that.
You mean we're waiting to look for grants or the funding that we have here?
Waiting to look for grants and finding opportunities for
Will
that.
anything be happening by this next summer?
We are currently in the process of, I think we've identified one grant that would be available for that, depending, and then continuing conversations with the railroad on if that would be an option. I would say if there is I would say it would probably be either harbor or Parks and Rec if it's in a park, if it's in a campground or a park, depending.
Because, I mean, there's 4 slots that should be opened up for the elderly and disabled, and we're the only ones in the state that don't have that.
Okay. Councilmember Calhoun.
Yeah, just one more clarification, I guess. I'm looking at Parks and Rec, Sports Rec. On page 40. 7017 rents and leases, and I know that there's a note on that.
Yes.
I read that note about we're increasing it $50,000 for more operating days. How much does $50,000 create, and how many days are there available?
There's 7 days available.
Okay, so that $50,000 increase is going to make that open 7
It made it
days
so,
a week?
so AvTech is currently available and open 7 days a week, 10 to 8. Because we allocated that previously under a resolution. And so this is us budgeting for that for the next 2 years.
Good question.
Good.
The sauna is not open on Sundays and Mondays, though, which is a lesson I learned last week, but.
Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. Can you just explain to me what communications is? Because I keep seeing 6,000, 8,000 for communications, and I just need to know what that is.
All of the phones, cell phones, anything related to communication, radios, everything.
I know, I understand that part.
You want to know
But
the
I'm
benefits?
curious how every department has $6,000 cell phone bills.
So it's more like allocation expenses kind of thing. We pay Tel-Alaska, for instance, Tel-Alaska and TNT, and then we allocate those expenses and where the departments use for.
So we'll have an overarching phone bill for
And
the
then you
entire
just spread it
city.
out.
And
And
then
then
we
you
spread that
spread it
out,
out.
and then we add the phone bills for the individual department heads or people who are on call that need cell phones is added into that as well. So it's actually something our IT department is working on a fleshing out of how many city cell phones we have and how many city cell phones are actually used. So that's something that they've been working on for a few months to reallocate, but this communications is, a big majority of that is the reallocation of the Tel-Alaska cell phone bill and different larger bills like that.
Councilmember Brown.
I have a couple questions. So one to Kat, is this 8% projected salary increase
Yes.
budgeted into this, right? So
Yes,
we're
sir.
looking at 8% on every one of these all the way down the line.
Yes.
Okay. And then back to Mel, on motor pool, you're actually contributing more to motor pool than Doug is. And yet
Yes.
you're running a lot smaller equipment. Is there a reason for that, or do you just have a lot more?
All of her equipment, all her asset right now in the list is out of date of life.
Oh.
She is
Very.
contributing into the motor pool now so she can get the replacement.
Gotcha. So
It's another conversation for more
back
approvals.
to that anticipatory, like 10-year plan.
Yes, exactly.
The depreciation values.
And then I just noticed that you're camping, you earned quite a bit of money camping, with camping fees this year. Almost double. Is that true? Wait, 24, no, 24, so 23 is 1.3.
Would you like to give us a page number?
Sorry, page 38.
Okay, 38.
I just couldn't.
So 24 year-to-date actuals, there we go. Oh, that's at 6:30, I got it.
Yeah, so that
Yes,
that doesn't
it's
include July.
No.
But still, we jumped from 23, 1.3 to 1.7 to 24. Is there a reason for that?
Actually, we're down.
In which years?
Well, I see 23 actuals at 1.3 and 24
Oh, yeah, okay.
budget is 1.7.
I can answer that. We did have a slight fee increase. We had a $5 fee increase on all the camping fees. And then we also increased the credit card fees from $2 to $5. So that's probably why. And then we, of course, charge for cancellation or any change fees. So that's all included in the camping fees.
I know last year was it was a rough summer last summer, and then the
Really?
summer was a reasonable summer. Is that- that
Yeah,
makes
a
it-
much better summer, night and day.
Okay.
On page 40, which is the sports and rec expense budget, the PR special events, 4.345, the almost 3,000 actuals, but then budgeted 27,000. What was the difference?
Sorry, for 4345.
Yep,
Okay.
PR, Park and Rec special events.
Okay. Oh, yeah, go for it, yes.
Okay. So, in the 2024 budget, one of the things is in this budget process, you have to consider that you guys had different finance director over the years, right? In this case, they decided to allocate all of the special events just in one line for budgeting. This year, I decided to have all of the lines and actuals for all of the lines that we currently accept money for in order to be more transparent for. In this case, this department has their own revenue from the community and sponsorship. That 27, you also allocate some special events over there, but it should be, this is kind of an error too, it should be adjusted to all of the special events.
So we're breaking all of these events out, and so, which is helpful to Mel's team as well, so that they can see how well they do on certain events, which ones bring in revenue, which one they might need to readjust in the future. And so this 27,000 goes all the way down. So that's a good note to add, because we'll go through and adjust that revenue, because that should go from top to bottom in each one of those.
But if you see the bottom line in actual 2022 was 27 something, so it's
Yeah.
around the same. It's just an allocation.
Councilmember Wells.
So if I understand what you just said, then where it's $54,332, you're saying that'll be actually 27,000?
No. So the 27,000, and so I think Suli, you may have misspoken there a little bit, the 27 was the total operating revenue, including facility rental, but we've had such an increase in events put on by Parks and Rec, we're seeing an increase in usage, and we're seeing all of these events bring in revenue, so that'll be in addition, but it's based off of the 23 and 24 actuals.
Got it, thank you.
All right. Oh, wait. Councilmember Burnwell.
Back to TYC. So Boys and Girls Club will not be involved anymore?
No, they will
no.
continue to be involved.
Yes.
Okay.
We're
yes.
just,
They'll just operate from on the middle floor, the elementary age groups, and we can cater to the teens and also to the community as well. So
Will the teens be over at the TYC, or will they be at the?
They'll be in the lower level at the
Oh, okay.
TYC.
So
Yeah.
it's flip-flopping kind
It-
of how it used to be.
Well, yeah, currently the elementary ages are operating out of the middle floor. They moved
Oh, they
from
are
the
now.
lower level to the middle floor, so.
And are you hiring more employees for that then, or are you?
We're working on that because, yeah, they'll be a bit.
We haven't currently allocated or put in any additional budget, any positions for that. It's kind of an interesting situation because previous administrations canceled those positions out of the PERS, and we're kind of seeing a need again to bring that back. But we don't want to rush into it because, as with canceling positions, bringing them back is also an interesting thing. So we're going to see how it goes for 2 years, see how the staff that we have and seasonal employees can work, and then potentially move forward with reimagining what that looks like. But right now, Mel's team is really awesome, and the Boys and Girls Club are awesome too, and it'll be great to see how they work together in that building.
Sorry, I didn't dig down just that little bit. I mean, Boys and Girls Club used to be, for instance, in the elementary. They don't operate.
So the Boys and Girls Club used to be in the elementary school, and the TYC was a city-run
Right.
program. And so I don't remember exactly when, but previous administration contracted that service out and canceled those positions in the city of Seward. So we paid those PERS termination fees, which is usually a hefty charge for canceling a position. So we don't want to rush back into adding positions there just in case things are cyclical. But I am excited to see them work together. But yeah, so Boys and Girls Club will still exist, but as it currently does in the community center building.
Okay.
All right, so,
Oh, go ahead.
do you have
No, go ahead.
any more questions? Okay. I think I left off it. So most of, if you look at the narrative, you can see most of the budget, the Parks and Rec budget is just adjusting from one department to another to fulfill the needs of, like, park maintenance and campgrounds. That's a,
Yeah, I think a big note is that for a while our cemetery was under-maintained, so we put money into that, and now our campgrounds need maintenance, so we're shifting those funds around. So while some of the jumps may seem large, especially in that campgrounds department like Councilmember Finch laid out, there's other areas that we've been able to contract a little bit so that the general expenses don't increase too much.
Is that all you had?
yeah. If you just look at the narratives, and that explains all the adjustments, so.
Okay, can we just ask the
Yeah, of
public
course.
if they want to, I see a question coming up, so,
Yeah, just before each department
yeah.
walks away. The question came earlier about salaries, and there's a $170,000 increase from the 2024 final budget to the 2025 proposed. Is that due to being open 7 days a week? Because you said you were fully staffed in '24, and you were not anticipating hiring any right now until the MOA gets, so 170,000 increase.
Which page are, and,
I'm on Parks and Rec admin salary.
Okay.
Page one, page six.
so this, all of the salaries across each department is going to have an 8% increase this year based off of the wage study that we're proposing. In addition, we've seen consolidation. So in 2021, personnel expenses were put into TYC, and so with Parks and Rec, a lot of the personnel expenses were put into other areas, but we're consolidating those into the Parks and Rec department. So we're seeing that change as well. Mel, I don't believe there's a large increase due to being open 7 days a week, but we will see some increase there as well from that. So I think those three factors across the board are bringing those salaries up in that department.
Yeah, just between 24 and 25 or what. I know that you explained why the changes were from way back in 20.
But between,
Because you consolidated, but between the two, from 1 year to the next.
so you're saying it's 6,000 between 25 and 26 or 24 and 20?
there's an increase of $170,000 between 24 final budget and 25 proposed budget.
And that is because of the consolidation, the wage study increase, as well as additional hours spent working. So I would say it's a collection of those three reasonings.
Okay. Were there any other public comments or questions related to either Public Works or Parks and Rec right now? You're a public. Go ahead.
Just something, a clarification, quick. While I'd like Parks and Rec to pay more than I do for equipment, you were just looking at the shop, but the shop only has
Yeah.
one shop truck.
Oh, God,
Just the maintenance
that's what,
truck.
$8,000 a year.
Has others,
Gotcha.
so all these others are paying quite a bit more, but,
Yeah, thanks, Doug. That helps.
We need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rhonda.
Back to the Public Works and the building, the comparison of health insurance to salaries on page 34, 6,000 and then 6,202. The final budget for 24 shows that the health insurance is like 22% of the overall salaries, and then it jumps to 52% in 25. Is there a reason for that, and is there any way that you can negotiate those health insurance costs better? Just, and then it's 3 times the amount from the 24 budget to the 25.
Doug, did you want to speak to that? This was on the Public Works.
Yeah, so this is for the health insurance benefits on Public Works buildings. So I'm actually going to note that because that might be a holdover from when they were separate, so we'll have to go back and adjust that. So thank you for pointing it out. So we do negotiate our health insurance benefits every year. This year or for the next 2 fiscal years, we're anticipating a 10% increase, which is pretty conservative, and we are able to negotiate that. But we do get actually a pretty good deal for what we offer and what we have. That being said, thank you for pointing that out.
Good job.
so other answer to it though is that we have 2 employees instead of 1.
That's what I was
Oh,
saying.
there it is. It's
That's
two
the
employees.
cost of
Going
2
along for a
employees.
long
We have a new
time,
employee, though.
Struggling with 1 custodian, and we got our new custodian Chuck in, and he's doing a wonderful job and helping, so Dave
Oh, yeah,
can kind of
that's-
catch up. So that's,
I
it's
jumped
doubled
over.
because there's 2 people instead of 1.
And he's fully staffed.
That's why
He's
we have
fully
you
And he's
staffed
fully,
right now.
and he's fully staffed.
He's fully staffed right now.
That's why I have.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will add too, having 2 custodians across the city buildings has been such a huge increase in morale and just general day-to-day happiness in the building. A big shout out to Dave and Chuck. Yeah.
Yeah, Rhonda.
On the Parks and Rec, I know that we're very seasonal, but is there, the receptacle, speaking of cleaning and janitorial stuff outdoors, is completely gone. There's like 1 receptacle. Is there anything in the budget to see that we have some sort of, some receptacles available, so when people are walking our dogs or we're picking up litter throughout the winter, that we can have a place to put that when we're on the trail or on the pathway?
Do you,
Yeah, I guess you get to
Yeah.
come back up. Sorry,
So in the fall, we pull a lot of the receptacles. Are you talking about just recently, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's maybe 1 receptacle
Okay.
on the whole path.
Okay, no, we can put out some more receptacles, and we have been pulling some, and repainting them and refurbishing them, so.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
But they will be there.
Absolutely, yeah, yes, and we pull a lot for the winter time, so that's.
but we can definitely put some more back too
For
after
sure.
they're refurbished and ready to go.
And then I walk my dog, it'd be nice to have a receptacle up by the water tank.
Water tank.
Where, up at the Hilltop subdivision area where that water tank is.
Oh.
People drive up there and they snack and they just dump their garbage, so I know it seems like an odd place, but.
That's the area where I get all the bags when we clean up in
Yeah.
May. That's why I win prizes.
I have a little garbage.
I get you. I've let the secret out. Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, I have a question. So under the Parks and Rec on the TYC, the contracted services 7009, is that where the Boys and Girls Club contract?
Yes.
Yeah.
would be?
Correct.
And so are they currently getting the majority of that, or are they expected to?
So they get, annually, they get previously, they received a $25,000 a year donation from the city of Seward. That was from general services, as well as $190,000. So we're readjusting that, and we have removed and this is all in communication with the Boys and Girls Club as well, so it's not like a big surprise, but we've removed that $25,000 donation and instead have put it all under contracted services and dropped it down to $170,000 in anticipation of this change that Mel's team is going to do. But yes, those contracted services are 100% for the Boys and Girls Club.
Did that answer?
Thank you.
Okay.
On the same vein, with the Boys and Girls Club, having worked with the schools, one of the issues has been that our contract with the Boys and Girls Club, they aren't open on school breaks.
So we've been working really closely with them while we readjust the MOU after talking to a lot of people and hearing some of the issues and concerns that happened in the past year or so, and that is some of our top priorities. So being able to make sure that they're open on school breaks, open on in-service days and those half days, and when they're really, really needed.
Because Kenai Boys and Girls Club is. Right.
Yes.
Right, okay.
It would be, yes.
Okay, anything else out there?
And a big shout out to Mel for a lot of, and Sam too, he read over that MOA contract recently for digging into that and making sure we were covered and that everything looked good.
Okay, do you want to move on?
Sure. Where should we go next? Chris, do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I can go first.
You're up, Chris.
Pretty quick.
Wipe my hands. I have nothing to do with this one. No.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell us where.
Yeah, let me find the page.
Okay.
Council and clerk?
Probably is, but I don't know where it is, so we need to find it.
46.
I was gonna just cut straight to the narrative, if that's okay, on page 46.
And then the council and clerk budget is on page 14 and 15. Or 14.
46 is the narrative.
Okay.
Okay, so on page 46 in the narrative, I was looking at 3 items, basically the 7302 travel and subsistence, and we just figure the cost is gonna go up for traveling, food, airfares, hotels, and this includes the trips to DC and Juneau, and we estimated 32 to 35,000 would be a ballpark figure. The next one, 7303 education and training, we wanted to bump that up a little bit to make sure that we're covered for all of our clerk conferences, the AAMC, the training that takes place in Tacoma and around the USA, and then also to expand it a little bit to include administrative training for the executive assistant position. And then item 7800, the Sister City program, we wanted to increase that budget up to $10,000. The exchange was a huge success this year, and it's going to just keep growing in popularity, we hope, and we're just trying to anticipate the rising cost of travel, airfare, activities, much like the travel and subsistence one. And that's all I have.
That's it?
Any questions?
Okay.
Your narrative was great, thanks.
Was that noise? Sorry.
Was that my timer?
Yeah. Your timer.
Yeah, that was it.
Might be the last group.
Did you have anything to add? Well, you
No.
got-
Yeah, that's.
Oh, Mayor.
This just moved.
It's haunted.
Yes, Councilmember Burnwell.
Krista, the sister cities, no adults are involved in that other than the chaperones, right?
Correct.
For at
So
least the next year.
we would be paying for the chaperone to go, whether it's Deputy City Clerk Jody or perhaps someone from council who is wanting to go.
Big, small, over here.
How many kids are involved in that?
So it's up to 4 maximum.
Thanks.
And they pay for their airfares. And then when the 4 Japanese students are here in Seward, we're the ones paying for their activities and such, so it becomes a trade. So when our students go there, everything is paid for by the city of Over Hero for them to do all the activities.
It's a pretty sweet thing.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, yeah, great.
Councilmember
Sorry,
Calhoun.
quick question, Chris, on your mayor and council legislative stipends. Can you just explain what that is?
Okay, and what page are you looking at?
That's page 14, 6003.
Oh. I think that,
I do not recall making any changes.
that's
to
you
that one.
guys.
I wasn't actually asking about changes to it. I was just asking you to let everybody know exactly what that is.
Legislative stipend.
I defer to the city manager on that
So the
one.
legislative stipends is actually the payment that you all receive for being on city council. So a whopping $36,000 for all the time and energy that you put in for the city councilors.
Okay, so my question is, then the final 2024 budget final is 36,000.
Mhm.
The proposed 2025 budget is the same amount.
Right.
But I do know that there are some council members that do not take that stipend, so why are those numbers not different?
In anticipation for the other ones that it might can.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Use.
the 2024 final should be different than 2025.
So the 2024 budget final, so we anticipate it based off of what you can make in that position in case somebody does leave council for any reason that we wouldn't necessarily know. We have to budget for the full approval, just like with a salary where we would have to budget that that position exists.
I understand 2025. My question is 2024, because I know of at least one council member that hasn't taken a stipend for 3 years.
Oh, so it's the budget final, that's what we budgeted for, the actuals is the one next to it, so the actuals will be under 36,000.
Correct.
So currently we're at 15,600,
All right.
about halfway through the year, so we'll see much less than
The
that.
budget in 2024 in that line, it has not been adjusted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions or anybody from,
I probably know the answer based on past budgets, but 2021, did the clerk's budget, salaries and everything, is that underneath the council budgetary items and now you've broken it out?
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, then we have a slew of boards and commissions that have, some changes to them. On page 15, you'll see the Historic Preservation Commission. One of the big changes there is that we are allocating a portion of our library museum curator's salary to that because she spends a lot of time working with historic preservation. So you'll see a salary increase that didn't happen in 2022 but happened in 2021. So we cleaned that up a little bit and are moving forward with the same as 2024 as a portion of that salary, so that's some of the changes you see there. PACAB is a whopping $1,200. Tony asked if he should be here tonight to speak to it, but I said I could handle it. Planning and Zoning Commission, it's similar with that salary. Our Community Development Director and our planner spend a substantial amount of time working with that group, so we allocated portions of their salaries to that. And their legislative stipend as well has increased because we're planning for and seeing a full board. Wait, sorry, is that what that legislative stipend is for planning and zoning? Yeah, just to clarify, sorry. And then the city manager budget, which is my budget for the department, I budgeted very similarly to the past few years. There are two changes. One is decreasing our proposed travel budget a little bit, just because we haven't been hitting that number in the course of a few years, and I've completed my ICS 300 and will do my ICS 400 digitally, so kind of just reworking that to be a more accurate reflection in 2026. In 2025, I do plan on attending some CLIA conferences, so I kept it the same in 2025. The big change that I put into the city manager budget this year is $65,000 in the contracted services for this year, and about $25,000 for, or this year being 25, and $25,000 in 26. And this is included with the goal of putting out an RFP for a grant writer. So my intent with those additional funds would be to put an RFP out for a grant writer for the city of Seward to have on staff for departments that might potentially need that role. And then I decrease it the next year because through a lot of the grant writing services, you can incorporate that as administrative fee. So with that initial $50,000, it would be a start to getting some of those grants written and sent out. And then further years down the line, that individual or whoever it may be can start paying for themselves in that way. So I start to diminish that over time. And so that's a big, that's the biggest increase that you would see in my budget this year. Everything else remains the same.
Questions? Councilmember Barnes.
Sorry. So for grant writers, when they write a grant, they write a grant, and then when they write the grant, they write their next year's salary into it. Is that what you're saying?
You can put the administrative fees in there, yeah. So, yes, it's in some way, shapes, and forms, but over time, we would see a diminishing return, or that diminishing because of the value they're bringing in through admin fees, yeah. Is my goal. See if it works. Okay. The IT department head is unable to make it today or tomorrow, so I'm going to give a shot at his narrative. If you do have any follow-up questions, he is more than happy to answer via email, or you can come into one of our later work sessions. I'm going to switch over to page 19, and then I'm going to go to page, his narrative is on page, okay. So we see contracted services in 7009. We kept that at the same level we did in 2024, even though it was an increase over past years, because we're trying to build those cybersecurity policies and procedures. And our IT department covers the cybersecurity for every other department in the city, including our electric utility, our harbor, and those other enterprise departments that have sensitive information. And then for 7022, we are seeing a static year in 2025, but then in 2026, we see a lot of renewals for our yearly subscriptions, including our Barracuda email, Microsoft 365, the KnowBe4 spam testing, which is a really great tool that we utilize to keep all of our staff up to date. Do you guys get those too in your city emails?
I never know what it is.
That's the whole point, so you don't fall for the spam.
That is the point, we don't know.
Exactly. So to highlight that, you see that large jump in 2026, that's because we're seeing a lot of those multi-year renewals and planning for those accordingly. So we also have computer hardware in 722 is staying at the current level, which is an increase over past years in order to get some security cameras and door access system components. We see a lot of issues over time with door access and things like that, so we want to make sure that we're getting those up to date. We're seeing a further reduction in subscriptions and dues, because subscriptions and dues are moving into the SaaS, which stands for Secure Software as a Subscription model. So those subscription and dues were actually moving into the more appropriate place. Travel and subsistence in 7302, we see a increase as well to have our IT team attend cybersecurity trainings from FEMA and those on-hand trainings with the cyber awareness and the government IT conferences. They do their CJI training, which is a required training, I believe, for IT, but we have a preference to do those in Anchorage when available. And then education and training, everybody on the IT staff has a LinkedIn Learning training account to maintain all of their IT and update it and make sure they're staying up to date on all the fun things that they have to do to make sure our IT systems are safe. Any questions or thoughts on that?
Any questions about that?
Anybody in the audience have any questions? No?
Okay.
Just one little thing, and this is in personnel costs, Medicare.
Personnel costs, Medicare.
Quite a decrease,
Yeah, that
which
is
is not a bad thing, but why are we budgeting that much of a decrease?
Retirement?
That's just.
No, it's just IT. You're right.
That is a good question. Suzie, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, but sometimes we have sometimes we have a return back, so, but I need to see what's going on there.
So we'll double check on that. Make sure it's factual.
Anything else? Okay, go ahead.
Great. Suzie, you're up. Page 21, Finance Department.
Alrighty. No major changes. In contracted services, of course, a decrease, reflecting that we don't have anymore a finance director contracted. But is also representing the 20% of the contract for the outsourcing billing that we pay through the general fund. We currently are going to charge the 80% of the outsourcing billing to the electric fund. So that's one of the major changes there. And another big change is travel and sustenance and education and training. I'm planning to have a massive training with my team through GFOA, having all of them train in accounting classes for, and also representing the board in Alaska GFOA if they want to. So
we have a very awesome but young finance department team. There's been a shift in that department, so it's a really exciting opportunity for us to invest in the department as it is by sending them to GFOA trainings and accounting, things like that. And then to highlight kind of what Suzie was saying on the contracted services, that's part of our larger shift towards the lowering the administrative fees from the electric department by shifting those responsibilities to that enterprise account. So with the division of the bills into water and sewer and electric, we're reallocating that contractual fund from the finance department, which used to hold all of the utility billing, to the finance department and the electric department.
that's good. Any questions?
Questions for Suzie? Councilmember Baldwin.
I just have a suggestion that it would be really nice if in these documents, I don't really remember how many employees you have for finance right now. I know you took on.
We have down to, we currently are 4. It's supposed to be 6.
And if you look at page 10, there's a list of the general fund expenses by department under personnel, and that'll show you how many full-time employees are allocated to each department next to that. So the finance department has 8 full-time employees. I think at this time we're down 2.
We're down
so
2.
we're at 6.
It was a recent change.
Yeah, recent change.
It's useful.
Yeah. Any questions on any of those? Okay. So 1180 is 1180. Oh, yes.
That's finance.
Yep.
Okay.
What page is that?
7.
Okay. And then our last one is general services. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Great, and so general services
What page?
is on page 22 and 22, not in 23.
22.
So page 22, directly after finance. And so you'll see here, we have a coverage of a lot of the different general services that we have in our city. So communications and then legal, we had spread out across every department. But the way our team at the city utilizes our wonderful and amazing attorneys up in Anchorage is by having a fluid conversation with them. I don't want and we have a flat fee, which is pretty great. And I don't want our department heads to worry about contacting our attorneys in case they go over their legal allocation for the year. So instead of having that be something for them to be mindful of, we've moved them all into the general services, recognizing that they're a general service for our entire city. And then we have in there as well the contributions to the Chamber of Commerce, which comes in at, based off of last year's at $300,000. Contributions to the Senior Center, which sees an increase of $20,000 because that has not been increased in, I believe, a decade, so we allocated that to there. And then we see the contributions to the Alaska Sea Life Center for the PILT credit from the previous year's agreements, and so that will be finalized in 2025 and then no longer in 2026. So those are the major things in general services that we had budgeted for.
Questions on that? I know this is a lot to absorb, so there may be questions on this at the next meeting. Councilmember
So
Brown.
just to be clear, we're doubling our legal services contract?
We're consolidating all of the legal services from across every department. So now legal services in individual departments will be 0 or a little bit more.
Gotcha.
But we're taking that main fee that we see each year from our attorneys and putting them into general services, just so that our department heads don't have to think about whether or not they should call Sam. I would like them to just call him.
How much of a change is that for the city, bottom line?
We saw a small increase this year, but I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. Yeah.
$1,000
Yeah.
a month on the flat rate.
$1,000 a month on the flat rate, and then individually for the larger projects, we'll see that coming in as an hourly rate depending on what the project is.
Okay. Great. No questions? I'm getting neck exercise here. Councilmember Finch.
I was just noticing on the 21st schedule, the hospital, are we still waiting on financial statements from the hospital?
So I know that Sully has a meeting with them this week to meet and talk with their new finance director, but we are still waiting for some information from the hospital, yes. But they did hire a new full-time finance director, so that's exciting.
Could we see if the public has any questions? Yes, Cindy.
So the chamber has been at 300,000 actuals in '23, and now it's still the same for proposed, but there's a resolution tonight that they're 50% of the bed tax. How does?
So the resolution, that was a resolution passed by PACAP to reallocate the previous funding to the Chamber of Commerce, which was 50% of the bed tax. So it's not a resolution of the City Council, it's a information coming from PACAP to the City Council. And so based off of, so I did my recommended budget based off of previous years for the Chamber and did not include the impact that a potential increase of the bed tax would have into that funding area. So it is it's not a resolution that the council would pass tonight, it's a recommendation from PACAP.
So if the council wanted it brought forward, it would show up on the council agenda in the future?
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else out there? Yeah, Sam.
I'd just like to note, with the proposed increase in the bed tax to 8%, there's no increase to the chamber budget, which is a huge contributor of that bed tax monies for the city. So I think that should be considered by City Council. And I also would like City Council to consider the partnership between the Alaska SBDC office and the Sewer Chamber of Commerce. There's been a partnership for a few years to match that funding to support that position, and that's a $25,000 split, or I'm sorry, there's $25,000 funding on both the city council and the chamber's plate, so it's kind of an odd pass-through of funds from council to the chamber, and then that pulls away from our ability to, well, it promotes a wonderful program for the city and for our business owners. So I'm not proposing that we should do away with it, but to reconsider the council support, or the city supporting that position for us. So those are two things that I'd like to ask you to consider.
Copying attack. Anyone else out there with comments right now? We're going to be doing this night after night. Yeah, Rhonda.
Could you speak to the liquor tax, page 11, 4205? It seems to be a new, or it's something new there, so where has that evolved?
What is that?
Liquor tax?
The liquor tax 4205, we just had it in 2024.
That was for, it's a portion of the,
where is that?
when the police have a
Okay.
Oh, it's missing, it's missing.
Oh, it's a portion of the DUI, it's a portion of the DUI arrests and the, sorry, completely blanking, I know what it is, but it's a,
The state contributes to that?
yes, but,
It's paid by the
It's overall
Mhm.
DUIs, and so each community gets a percentage of it? Is that how it works?
Kind of, yeah, but it's by reporting. So
By
we,
what?
it's by reporting. We, over the years, we're missing some kind of reporting, and now we are getting to have those reports done by the state in a certain amount of time. So now we're getting those revenues.
Is it DUIs just, it's in our region?
I
Our city
believe
limits?
so, yeah.
yeah,
That
but
would be more
based off of
question
the
for
reporting from the city, but, I can have the Chief Nickel answer that in more detail tomorrow, as evidenced by my trying to remember exactly the details of that.
Thank you. Page 11 and 12, the jail contract and the facility rental. Since we don't have or maintain the jail, are those?
So our jail contract, we didn't budget anything for the general fund revenue this year, because we are not maintaining that facility currently as a jail. So we are budgeting for the loss of that revenue. We have also, as we get into the public safety portion tomorrow night, you'll notice that we are not budgeting for the jail positions either. So,
I was going to ask what the offsets were.
yeah, so it's a cost saving, but not a substantial cost saving. But we'll be able to dig into that a little bit tomorrow night when the chief is here to speak to it, sorry.
And then just a couple more. Page
Yeah,
12
of
on
course.
the investments. It's substantial. You don't
Yeah.
think those are going to carry through into 25?
This, I'm gonna let so Suli and I have talked about this back and forth at length, actually, because I had that same reaction. But Suli, if you want to speak to that a little bit.
We don't know, the city historically have not budgeted for investment because we don't know how the market will behave, right? So we have been increasing so much because the market has been changing in our favor, but I am conservative in revenue on that source to be in the budget.
So you aren't doing any rolling CDs or anything like that? You're not investing anything or into a
Oh,
bond
yeah.
or something that
Yeah.
you can anticipate? I mean, some of those are locked in, right, at a certain percentage rate for 90?
For years, actually.
Yeah, so
Yeah, the city maintains a list of cities currently with the investment. And this is something that we can definitely talk. When you
yeah,
guys
it just seems
decide.
like you should be able to retain some of that further, just on my own experience, what I'm realizing. And then just lastly, if you don't mind, I just wanted to comment on the chamber.
Yeah.
I did see what PACCAP had passed, and I think the chamber's doing a great job. However, I think it would be more fiscally responsible of this body to actually get a budget from the chamber and understand what they're using these funds for. And to think that you're going to get 50% of the bed tax is, I think that's a little much, I'm sorry. And there definitely needs to be a cap on that. And then there may be, I think there should be a real look at the chamber as far as what we're asking the chamber to do. Because if it's just marketing, I think we kind of oversold sewer already, in a sense. Because we have a lot of people in the hospitality business. I mean, the hotels were $21 million according to the bed tax income. They're pitching sewer, the railroad's pitching sewer, the cruise lines are pitching sewer. I think we have enough marketing just by the individual entities and businesses that are in that business, the recreational fishing, et cetera. So I would ask that we ask the chamber to do other things. They can also get funds too from the cruise ship head tax. Some of the monies things that they have in their budget, I think they can grab onto some of those funds that would qualify for what they're doing. So I think I think we need to look at it a little differently and really analyze what is in that budget. And and I have to say, when the initiative went through originally, it was to pitch it to the community to buy into the bed tax. They said, well, we're going to give half of it to Market Sewer. Well, that came back through the courts and said, no, you can't bind a council. You can't earmark funds like that to one particular department. So that story kind of needs to go away as far as we're obligated to give the chamber half of the bed tax. That just wasn't, that got put down. And so now it's a matter of just a budget and the sewer and the city of Seward deciding how much they're going to help the chamber market sewer for in whatever fashion it needs to be. And I would say back to writing, grant writing. I don't know if that's in their purview, but it'd be nice to have that help from the chamber to support, some grants.
Okay,
that we can do
just
to offset the burden of the visitor industry. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. Real quickly, okay?
Okay, yeah, I agree with a lot that you said, Rhonda, and one of the questions I've had for council is to take a look at that marketing contract and outline the services that you wish us to provide. I will say that within our scope of the marketing contract, we spent about $674,000 on items within that marketing contract, and if you exclude the large community events that we put on, it's still almost $500,000 that we're spending on items within our marketing contract, and that includes salaries, and that includes year-round salaries, so.
Okay, we need to wrap this up pretty quick. Did you have any final?
No, I just want to say thank you. This is a process, and it is a first-time process for both Suli and I, and we're really excited, and just the engagement in the full room tonight makes me happy already, so thanks so much.
Can I mention something? I'm very thankful for my team in finance. This is a learning curve for them as well, and they made a huge effort to bring this to you guys. So
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And if anybody has any comments that couldn't attend tonight and want to call me or email me, my email address is ksorensen, SORENSEN, @cityofseward.net, or sjusino, SJUSINOU, @cityofseward.net.
Okay, and we'll be here tomorrow night at 5:30.
And here in 7 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, this part. Okay, I'm going to close this work session and